checking in with us again. Are you familiar with NDEs, that is near-death experiences? They are a phenomenon that so many people experience when they die or they pass temporarily in maybe an accident or on the operating table of a hospital. And when they are revived, they recount these stories, these experiences, which all seem to have a common thread. There are thousands of these documented cases. And strangely enough, it all seems to link up and align with what clairvoyants are actually seeing also. Well, Rob, I know that you have some experience with near-death experiences. Was it your mother?
Yes. So a lot of people have come to me who've had near-death experiences trying to understand what they are. But my mother, many years ago, when she was giving birth to her first child, my sister, she was giving birth at home. The husband was there. And she wasn't a medium or anything else that whatsoever. She was a nurse most of her life. But at a certain point, when things were almost going wrong, all of a sudden she found herself, and it seems to be different with everybody, going up this tube. And the thing that she found strangest was when she was looking down, seeing her husband down there, and that she knew that the husband and the baby were going to be all right. There was absolutely no worries, no fear whatsoever. And this seems to be with most near-death experiences what the feelings are. And here today we have our guest, Nerina, who has been through one. So please, what happened with you?
Well, it was many, many years ago. It was 1975, so that's going back a bit. But I remember it vividly as if it happened yesterday. To cut a long story short, I had a clot in my lung and I had a cardiac arrest. And from being breathless and in a lot of pain to suddenly being up at the corner of the ceiling, looking down at my body, and there must have been a little time lapse because I had two doctors working on me, resuscitating me, and there was also a nurse at the end of the bed giving them drugs or whatever. And I was watching all this, but the thing is, I was fascinated, totally relaxed, and I had this incredible sense of peace. It was that, I can't describe that, how that was. But the other thing that was quite amazing was I wasn't in a body, obviously, because my body was down in the bed. And the only way I can describe it was like a cloud, and I was moving. I wasn't in one particular shape of energy, a cloud of energy. That's the only way I can describe it. And the sense of not having a body was amazing. And it's something that nobody in a body could possibly understand. And I think about it now. And sometimes when we read our messages from Zodiac, he talks about when you pass over, when you are free of your body. And that just resonates with me. That was so dramatic. And yet it was such the most wonderful place to be.
And a wonderful experience, just a beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. There was no worries, experience. I was just fascinated by this body that was being worked on. And
you were separate from
it. Absolutely separate. And the interesting thing was that I said there were two doctors, and one of them shouldn't have been there because he wasn't actually allowed to work in this hospital. He worked in another hospital, but he was a friend of mine, and my doctor, who was also a friend of his, brought him there. So
do you think that they helped you, two of them helping you come back?
Yeah, that's right. They were giving me, cardiac resuscitation and all the rest of it.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway, they obviously succeeded.
Yeah, exactly. And how do you feel? You must have felt changed by it, but how do you think it changed your life from?
Well, it made me realise that dying wasn't a problem, big time. I'd never really sort of thought about it. When you're, about 25, you don't think about it very much. But it's made me realise that there's something better on the other side. But obviously we've got to be here to learn our lessons and what have you. But it was something that you should never be afraid of.
That's very comforting, isn't it? Because so many people are scared of death. Even
They
very
are.
young people have some debilitating fear sometimes of death and what to expect, or even people who are older too, who are approaching that time. So it's always very encouraging to know that it is that beautiful. And so many people seem to have a kind of similar thread in the experience.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very similar in all of them. And what's a lot of people think, oh, it's just in your mind, whatever. But it's, in experiences like yours, you could tell people what you saw after it took place. And the other thing you mentioned, the zodiac messages, and all sorts of situations in circles where people have come through and spoken about when they died. And they all say the same thing. They're all saying how completely relaxed it was. It's a different experience for everyone.
Right.
But they're all totally relaxed. So all these things that are written from people who've come back to explain it matches all these near-death experiences. This is what takes place, and to me, this is the proof of what is written when people come back and say, "This is what happened to me." What Nerina is talking about, this is normality. This is what happens when you pass to the next world.
Right, and it's so interesting because, of course, there are a lot of scientific people who will scoff and try and explain it away, and yet many of those scientific people have documented themselves when they have had the experience. So it's very, very interesting. Well, we are almost out of time. I'm sure we'll continue to ask Nerina some questions. If you have any questions about Nerina's story or about the subject matter of NDEs, drop Rob a line at the email address at the end of this segment. We know your time is precious. Thanks for spending time.